So something happened in the recent One Piece chapter 1095 that caught my attention. I mean, actually, there's been a lot of stuff in that chapter that I want to look over for the next few days and make a couple videos about it. And I will do that probably starting Monday when the official Viz translation drop on Sunday. That way I can really dive deep and figure out everything that I want to talk about. But the thing that really caught my eye was a panel that involved, well, I guess you could say a couple panels that involved Luffy and Kizaru, the admiral, someone who is considered the Navy's strongest fighting force in Kizaru, and then the new founded Emperor of the Sea, someone who is feared Monkey D. Luffy. It's really interesting because this one panel has kind of put the community in a place where I don't necessarily think that they are doing Kizaru and Luffy justice. I've done a few videos about this fight on my channel and I'll leave it in the description below, but today I specifically want to talk about Luffy because of what I've seen the community talk about him because of the fight with Kizaru. But if you guys enjoy regular anime content, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out a new video. With that, my name is Potential Unleashed, and let's see if Luffy has been receiving a little bit too much praise. I do want to let you guys know I am strictly referring to Luffy in the story and how the community talks about his action. I'm not talking about him as a character. I have no problems with him. I love him as a character. He is my second favorite One Piece character. He is in my top 5 favorite anime characters of all time, one of my top 3 anime main characters out there, so I have no problem with him. And I'm not trying to say that he's better than any other MCs or other characters out there. It's all subjective. The chapters I specifically want to talk about are 1094 and 1095. Now Luffy and Kizaru, they have been involved in more chapters than this, and I may reference them a few times in this video, but for now I want to talk about these 2 chapters. In chapter 1094, Luffy hit Kizaru with a star gun punch, and this attack kind of reminded me a lot of the attack in episode 1071 when Luffy punched Kaido, because it went through Kizaru's head and it stretched his body. It had advanced conquerors imbued in it and potentially real. You guys know how it's hard to tell at times what is and what isn't being used in One Piece, but when Kizaru, he got hit in the head, he said, "I'm seeing stars." I think that's really interesting that is the statement that he said. And then the next chapter we see Luffy and Kizaru both on the ground. Luffy not able to move at all. When Saturn was about to attack him, Frankie had to knock him out of the way with a strong right, and Kizaru stated that he needed a moment because he couldn't move just yet. Now personally, I find this a little bit hilarious because of the whole Yonko versus Admiral debate, and sometimes I feel like Oda, he's trolling us just a little bit because how these two fought to an extreme fight and they're both out of commission. It left the fight in a draw. But within the community, I see a lot of people talking about how Luffy beat Kizaru, or calling the Admiral frauds because he's unable to move after one punch. Number one, like I mentioned, Luffy, he's just as defenseless as Kizaru, plus with his Devil Fruit, and overall he's a more durable and has more endurance. Luffy can take more than the average person. Which brings me to my point number 2. Not everyone in this series is going to have the same amount of durability and endurance. It's all different because different individuals specialize in different things. More likely than not, and I don't really know everything because we've gotten a small sample size, but Kizaru is probably not as durable as other characters. He probably specializes in speed and deception just because of his Pika Pika no Mi. Plus his main focus was trying to kill Vegapunk, so throughout the fight he was trying to avoid a full-on confrontation with Luffy in order to achieve his goal. I also seen some individuals try to use Luffy's fight with Kaido and have that as the standard for other fights, and my question is why? Because you could only use Kaido as a reference to the other top tiers, and this is because his durability and endurance is on a whole nother level compared to anyone else in the series. I would argue that Kaido has displayed the best endurance feats throughout the series. Because let's compare him to his right hand in King. If I had to put the two of them together, King is probably more durable than Kaido, and that's not to put any slouch on Kaido's durability. But when we factor in endurance, Kaido can endure way more than King can. Like I mentioned earlier, if we factor in both durability and endurance, what other character has proven that they can withstand stuff that Kaido has went through? So the whole point of putting him against Kizaru and saying that Kizaru, oh, well, he got knocked down after 1 punch, I don't necessarily think it's fair to hold Kizaru to the same standard as Kaido. I personally believe that we give Luffy a little bit too much praise when it comes to some of his fights throughout the series. Not saying that he doesn't deserve some of his victories, because I think that he did. And this is not referring to everybody in the One Piece community. I'm only talking to a specific group of individuals that whenever they talk about Luffy's victories, they leave out some of the context of the fight. Some of these fights include Doflamingo, Katakuri, and Kaido. For Doflamingo, Law fought him as well. He used Gamma Knife, which seriously injured Doflamingo, and then Luffy had to run around with the different civilians of Dressrosa for 10 minutes while his haki was out. Katakuri with Brûlé, she showed up and Luffy had to flee with her and use her Devil Fruit ability in order not to get killed. Kaido fought multiple opponents, including Luffy and other strong individuals, and Luffy was the final person to finish him off. Although these fights are considered to be Luffy's victories, and rightfully so, I personally think that people give him a little bit too much credit when they don't include the context whenever this argument is brought up. And I think that some of that context has to do a little bit with plot armor, and I feel like people hear plot armor and they get mad. Plot armor isn't necessarily a 100% negative thing. I do think that there are sometimes moments in the story that plot armor is necessary, and that's just how it is. I just wish that authors do a better job, or sometimes they do a good job, sometimes they do a bad job, but overall, if they do a decent job, I'm pretty satisfied with the result. I don't know why people get so upset whenever they hear plot armor. Plot armor, it's always going to be a thing in anime. Naruto, Goku, Natsu, Ichigo, everyone has plot armor. In these fights, Luffy had them as well. For Doflamingo, if Dofi really wanted to, he could have killed Luffy within that 10-minute time interval because nobody was strong enough to stop him. With Katakuri, I know that Brûlé is obsessed with her brother, but what doesn't make sense to me was the fact that he had been praised as someone who could never be defeated. So why would she go in and check on him in the mirror world? And also, the amount of times that he had Luffy on the ropes, he could have killed him if he really wanted to. Same with Kaido, he knocked him out multiple times, and he even mentioned that he should have taken Luffy's head of a trophy. So when he defeated him some other times, I don't know why he ended up stopping and didn't finish the job. So all of these individuals, if they really wanted to kill Luffy, they could have, but why didn't they? Number one, because that's just how anime is, and number two, the story would have ended and Oda would not have wanted to end that way. I've talked about moments where I believe that the community that we've praised Luffy a little bit too much. Now I want to talk about some moments that I don't think that he's gotten enough praise, and this isn't about from the One Piece community. I'm more so referring to in the actual story. Escaping the 3 world government facilities of Enies Lobby, Impel Down, and Marineford, the fact that his bounty did not skyrocket as much as it should have is mind-boggling to me. Especially in Impel Down, someone willingly going into where all these criminals are held and escape when he wanted to. And you could say the same thing for Enies Lobby, willingly going in there and escaping whenever he wanted to. That's actually insane. And I would say Marineford, I don't really weigh that as much as the other two, because when chaos creates opportunity and there was so much chaos going on the battlefield, it makes sense to why he would have been able to escape much easier than the other two. Post Wano, I kind of disagree with his bounty a little bit. I wouldn't have wanted him to have a 4 billion berry bounty, because I think that would have been a too high of a bounty, especially now that he just started being an emperor. I think that the only person whose bounty shouldn't have been higher than his that's considered an emperor is probably Buggy. If I had to give an increase, I wouldn't want it to be more than 500 million than his 3 billion that he already had. But at the same time, I feel like if anything, that Oda should have just left Luffy's bounty what it is at the 3 billion mark, and then lower Law and Kids to somewhere slightly over 2 billion. I also want to mention that some of the perception that Luffy has in the story. It's based off of how he's written in the paper, so shout out to Morgan. He's going to twist some of this stuff to make a bigger and better story, similar to how people in the media do it IRL. An example of this is at Whole Cake Island. After Luffy ended up fleeing and defeating Katakuri, all of that, Big Mom, she got upset because the story was exaggerated a little bit. That's also the reason why different individuals who have never met Luffy in person, they see him as this monster, this vicious pirate, when he's actually really nice. But the real question is, does he receive too much praise? I think it depends on who it comes from. I think that there are some individuals that meet Luffy a little bit too much, thinking that he's this powerful, unstoppable guy. And I also think that there's some individuals that don't truly acknowledge what he is, that he's strong, and that he is a Yonko of the sea. If you want my opinion on it, I think that Luffy gets a little bit too much praise, and that's simply because so many people love him as a character and he's so popular. How I feel about him is that he is a top tier character. He's in the upper echelon, definitely deserves his title of a Yonko, but I don't want people putting him on the pedestal of people like Emu, like Blackbeard, like Shanks, or even Mihawk and those individuals just yet. Let me know how you guys feel about Luffy. Do you guys think that he deserves all the praise that he gets from the community, or you guys think that he receives a little bit too much? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out a new video from me. Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is on the screen and in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.